Welcome to Higher Ed Athletics, presented by AD Vantage. The Game One studio was on the road last week as I traveled to Indiana State University, sat down with the president, Mike Godard, and the vice president of athletics, Nathan Christensen. They both started at the same time, and they're both entering year 3, and that's where the conversation starts. But we cover a lot, and you know I speak a lot about university presidents and athletic directors and how the jobs are similar. Well, I finally had the opportunity to sit down with both in one interview. So thanks for watching or listening to Higher Ed Athletics. And if you haven't yet, go to higheredathletics.com or go in the show notes and you can sign up for the Modern AD or the soon-to-be-released Mid-Major AD, both online magazines of Higher Ed Athletics.
So President Godard, if I remember correctly, the plan was in place for the AD search to start during the president search that led to you becoming the president of Indiana State. Now, obviously, you have an athletic director, but I also believe, because I was here at that time on staff, I think it was basically the board wanted to start the search and present finalists for whenever you started. So I believe he ended up being like your first hire. Is that how it went down? Then maybe as a president perspective, how did that process work that ultimately that led to Nathan?
Yeah, well, that's pretty close. A little bit, a little bit nuance to that, but yeah, they had started the search process. They wanted to kind of get that going. They understood, the board understood, and even the previous administration understood the importance of this role that Nathan's in right now. So actually, I got to join it a little bit earlier than that, and so I was an observer of all of the Zoom interviews that took place with all of the semifinalists. And so I literally got to sit in on each and every one of those. And then prior to me officially starting my role as president here in June 1st of 2024, I was able to then have some follow-up one-on-one Zoom conversations with individuals that I thought really had risen to the top. And Nathan obviously was one of those. And then when I arrived on campus, literally within about a week and a half, the finalists were on campus, and Nathan obviously was one of those. I'll tell this story. Nathan's heard me say it before, and so he won't get too embarrassed about it. But literally during that, even that semifinalist Zoom interview, and then certainly when I had some one-on-one time with Nathan, I knew he was the guy. I mean, there was just no question. I mean, he and I appeared to be very, very like-minded in our approach and kind of how we deal with situations, and I just knew he was the right fit. To a point in which we get asked this question all the time, like, did you guys know each other before? That's beyond people thinking that we're brothers sometimes as well. But people really think that we've known each other for years, and we're going on 3 years now, but we didn't know each other before. But yeah, Nathan was the right choice at the right time, and I was thankful to be included in that process even before I officially started. But yeah, we moved pretty quick to be able to get him on board because of the importance of this position.
Yeah, and the timing of both of your start dates. I mean, I would say you match each other's energy well just from getting to know Nathan over the last couple of years and following your social presence as well. And it's obviously working out because I know you also just recently promoted him to vice president as well. And so, Nathan, if it was, I read the 25-26 annual report, and I would say it reads like if it was a chart, it'd be a hockey stick. So I put some of the numbers: record-breaking year in overall revenue and a 39% year-over-year increase in revenue gen. So really, in the last year, whenever you're in year 2, now getting to start year 3. What strategy worked so well in the last year?
Yeah, I think honestly for me, it's always been about genuine relationships with corporate partners, community leaders, and donors. I think just having those genuine relationships that they can believe in what we're all trying to get accomplished, and obviously they're excited about President Godard. Having those genuine relationships, but also having a vision where they see what we're trying to get accomplished. Not saying a past administration didn't have that. I just think sometimes that fresh look and those fresh ideas and things that are attainable and achievable that they feel that they can buy into has been really, honestly, our key to our success. And it's really trying to be more transparent with our donor base of where we stack up with our peers. Where do we aspire to be, but what's realistic with our programs that we feel that we can be competitive in. And I think that's been the key to our success, is just really trying to make our donors think bigger and bolder about what they can do as individuals, as businesses, but also opening up people to think about, hey, these are the types of things that you could do for us to enhance Indiana State University, enhance Sycamore athletics. And a good example is that of Union Health. We were able to, day one, both President Godard and I recognized right away that we need these guys a part of this. If you look at this community, it's Indiana State University and Union Health as two big employers. And there was a lot of things that we could do to really elevate the lifestyle for just Terre Haute folks and people in Vigo County. So we've been able to really grow that relationship. But there's many stories like that, but that's just one in particular. But again, just going back to genuine relationships, being transparent, having a vision that people can get excited about.
Yeah, I think people that are watching this, my Indiana audience would understand how big Terre Haute is. I think that sometimes there's this notion that like what we consider a mid-major, that the location of the place is maybe not as big. I don't know that people realize how big Terre Haute is. I mean, we're talking a huge school district that's going to be going through some changes as well, but like there's multiple colleges in this city. I know the mayor is really closely aligned with you all too, and a young leader for the city. So yeah, I mean, there's so many opportunities in this new model of college athletics and higher education to be well represented of. I feel like there's sometimes people think that like this aging donor base and that like that you just go to the same people all the time, but like there's a lot of potential at a place like Terre Haute.
And to that point, there's a lot of people that, when we started the Investor Society, there were 32 charter members. Well, we're approaching 100, and it's truly, honestly, just us asking them for their support. And a lot of those folks are young, but I think it's people. One thing that I've learned a lot from President Godard is just being transparent. Doesn't matter if it's with your board of trustees or your donor base or your students on your campus. And that's one thing I tell our coaches is we need to be transparent with our student athletes as well about our expectations about what we're trying to do. So I think this level of transparency, even with corporate partners in this community, that what can we do to help them as well?
Well, I think, to Nathan's point, transparency builds trust. Mm-hmm. And trust is something that is sometimes hard to earn, but easy to lose. And if you're not transparent and upfront and honest with individuals, you'll lose that trust really quick. And that's where I thought that we really had an opportunity throughout the community, right, is to really start to lean into making sure that we build those trusting relationships. And it goes to, what Nathan just said in terms of just, be authentic about it too, and make sure people understand where those opportunities are. And I think that's where we benefited collectively as an institution through Sycamore Athletics, and we'll continue to build upon that.
Assess the whole department. Make the right decision. AD Vantage connects compensation, staffing, spending, budgeting, performance, contracts, and candidate intelligence, revealing relationships that siloed tools just cannot. Build your own watch list of coaches or administrators, create custom reports to compare, or just browse and compare when you have a thought or moment of curiosity. Visit athleticdirectorvantage.com for more info and a demo.
Mike, I noticed that you're often wearing, not right now, the athletic logo and the athletic polo. I gave all of my polos when I left to John in the academics who I had hired when I was here. And I wore my Sycamore hat today. It's right over there off screen. But I've noticed you're wearing that athletic logo a lot. I know it's on the footer of the website. I think when I had Nathan on in his first year, I had him on the podcast. I told him after, I was like, you guys need to get this, this needs to be the campus logo, integrate it. So is that kind of how did that story happen as far as a branding approach and the alignment, the identity? Because it's not like there was, unless I missed it, I don't think there was a big announcement. It just seems like it's been subtly done.
Yeah, and it was strategic, but subtly strategic in ways in which you just articulated. One of the things I recognized when I got here is that we called ourselves a lot of different things. The trees, the forest, ISU was big, right? And people still do that. I tell our alums all the time, you've earned the right to call us whatever you want to call us. But for those prospective students, families, those individuals who aren't yet friends of the institution, we want to be easily identifiable to them. And so you'll see with everything that we do now, there's no ISU. It's Indiana State University, it's Indiana State, or it's Sycamores. And so when you look at our new branding, everything is Indiana State. It has the I as the logo, which is very, very similar to the athletic one. Maybe some subtle differences that most people wouldn't even recognize. But yeah, that was intentional because we felt like we had value proposition out there, and we wanted to make sure that we leverage that. So we're really leaning into that new branding initiative, but still allowing for the leaves to still be out there and other types of aspects to what historically people have gotten used to. It's just not as prominent as it once was. And we're not looking to take anything away. We're just looking to be more strategic on how we brand ourselves moving forward. And so Nathan had a lot to play in that. Our VP for Enrollment Management, Maribeth Stevens, who's been with us, she's a little over 2 years now herself. Is that right?
Yep.
No, or maybe not quite 2 years. She's getting there.
November.
But anyway, she's brought a lot of energy and ideas as well. And so collective effort, but we, again, there's a lot of ISUs out there in the nation, and we want to make sure that we're easily identified.
Yeah, you got Illinois State just down the road. That was always the confusing one.
You got
right?
Illinois State, you
got
got Iowa State, I mean, Idaho State. I mean, there's a lot, and so we're Indiana State University, and I think that's a strong brand, and we're going to lean into that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great play to do that. You know, it's kind of this involvement because my first stint here was before everybody went to Under Armour, and every team would have their own thing. It wasn't just Indiana State. A lot of people, this was just like the evolving of the identity. But like you want to be able to have that close relationship between the athletic identity and and then it also opens up, trends come back. So people are always going to love that home field apparel, retro Indiana State stuff, and that can live on. But you also want to have this fresh look, and I think I have 2 second cousins that one's a senior here, and then one her brother is now going to be a freshman here, and so their parents are both Sycamore alums, and they wear the new logo. I noticed that, and I was like, and I'd always tell them when I worked here, I'd say, yeah, I mean, just wear that. That's such a better logo. Like you can be supporting athletics, but you could also be going to an academic event
For sure.
and wear the same thing. And I think it's you've got the pin on now. That I think it's just a great identity move.
Well, and it's one of those, it's recognizable in so many ways. And so I can give you story after story where I'm wearing a polo or Indiana State apparel. And I'll give you an example. A couple of months ago, my wife and I were in Northern Ireland hiking, and we're up on this cliff. And I got people passing me as I'm wearing Indiana State. They're yelling, "Go Sycamores!" And so that's cool.
Yeah.
When you have that level of just recognizing that brand and the awareness of it. And so the more I can show that off and represent, the more, the better off we all are as an institution.
Game One is the preferred apparel and equipment provider of higher ed athletics. Is your uniform and apparel provider deal up soon? Considering your options? Do you like Under Armour, Adidas, Nike? Take your pick with Game One as your provider. Tim McMurray is a former college AD and understands your job. Visit the show notes to get in touch with Game One and Tim McMurray today.
Nathan, you inherited a men's basketball program that, when I was here, had a talented team. They got the Hulman Center rocking on the NIT run before you arrived. Now the national success or attention, I guess I should say, has kind of fallen off. But I look at the ticket revenue and I see social. I usually come to one game every year when I can, and this place still seems like it's rocking. So how have you all been able to kind of harness that momentum coming off that historic run a few years ago to still keep this place full?
For sure. And obviously, this venue is awesome. The Hulman Center, we're blessed to have this facility, and obviously, the state of Indiana supported that, a few years ago. But for us, we know that basketball is a straw that stirs this drink from an athletic standpoint. So for us, we want to make sure that we're getting our men's basketball program and all of our student athletes, but certainly men's basketball out in the community, and building those genuine relationships. Again, to my earlier comment about how we really seen revenue growth. It's about those genuine relationships. So even over this course of the summer, bringing 15 new guys on campus, we've been intentional about what we're doing to try to get them in the community, in front of our NIL board, to youth organizations, you name it. But I think this is a basketball community. Obviously, it's a basketball state. Basketball is different in the state of Indiana. And as you mentioned earlier, too, the Terre Haute is a large community, and they love their basketball. This is a great venue to watch it. But we want to make sure that game day atmosphere is family friendly. It's easy to get tickets to from an upper level section, from an affordability standpoint. All those different touch points are really critical, because it's going to take all of us to be successful. And you're right. And last year we were in every game, even though we were kind of on the losing side of the coin. But our team was super competitive, and I think just giving people hope. And especially in the wintertime, when there's something to do in Terre Haute, this is the best thing that's going on. And obviously, it's certainly the front porch of the institution from a athletic standpoint. Is obviously we're always going to be on the front page from a men's basketball standpoint. So I think there was a lot of magic that happened with that NIT run, and I think people still believe that's doable, and it is doable. Obviously, it's a very unique climate right now in college basketball, with rev share and NIL, and obviously the transfer portal. But Matthew's done a really good job of building a roster this year that we're excited about. We're going to be a lot more athletic, a lot bigger, but they're also just great human beings. And this group of guys care about each other. They're hoopers. They want to play. So in our ticket revenue, if you looked at this time compared to last year, we're ahead of schedule in terms of season ticket renewal. So, but again, to my earlier point, this is just a basketball community. They love watching them, but this venue sells itself as well.
Well, one thing I always loved about the venue is it's easy to get in and out from the place, and also you can't have a bad seat inside this arena. I mean, we're about midway up, and you're eye level with the board. I mean, I've sat in the top row. It's just, you can't have a bad place to watch a game here. But at the same time, people want that premium look. So in that experience, so I know you have suites, but like, what are you all working on right now? I know construction is going on behind us to make the game day experience even better. So
back in February, President Godard and I met with Troy and Melissa Woodruff about our idea about the Hulman Center. We knew that we needed to add premium seating to this venue, because really only premium seating is our courtside seats. So we had this vision of adding 6 loge boxes on the south end, and then we had to redo our locker rooms for both men's and women's. So we received a 7-figure gift to help us get that completed. And we've already sold those 6 loge boxes for this upcoming season. And our goal was to have them sold by September 1st. They're already sold. So that was a huge win for us. But again, it's just adding to that fan experience piece, right? People want that high level experience that they can't get anywhere else. So we're going to have that this upcoming season and beyond. So we're really excited about that.
You know, I visited last football season. I spent a day at one of the MAC night games with Brian Blair before he left for Syracuse, and he showed me the plans that they were working on for their basketball arena. He turned a hallway, court level hallway that was a storage unit basically, and they turned it into a premium suites. And
oh, wow.
He had creative ideas, and he's like, for years no one thought that we could, this could be anything. And so athletic directors have to get creative now as they're trying to shrink football stadiums, or they're trying to enhance basketball venues. They got to think about every nook and cranny, everything that could be a storage unit. Well, could that also turn in some revenue? And you're limited to the space, because you don't want to open up a huge construction project, but you're able to get creative, like with your suites too.
And that was a fun project when we hired Ratio based out of Indianapolis to work on this facility master plan and where could we potentially put loge boxes. And that was a fun project. And we looked at 3 or 4 different locations, and this just made the most sense. And President was super excited about it. So again, it's just, grabbing revenue too, right? We all need more revenue, but also that fan experience piece.
So where are you watching games at, President? Like, when are you here? Are you?
I'm really close to behind the bench. So I'm front row, close to, kind of right behind the scorer's table is where I'm at. I've been told that my facial expressions sometimes are on the TV screen as well, so I watch that as well. They're all cheering, of course, always. No, but I love to kind of have that experience of being in the stands with the fans and being able to cheer on our Sycamores. And I try not to kind of be too far removed from where the action is. And oftentimes you'll also find me over in the forest with the students in the student section, making sure that we're getting a little bit rowdy for our Sycamores.
That's good. Yeah, it's I think my season tickets when I was here was like actually right down here. And I think I was in 106. So I think right over here. And gosh, it's such an experience bringing and yeah, you want to be. I think the winning is great, right? But even if you're competitive, I think knowing Terre Haute the way I do, like the working class people are going to respect that and they're going to keep showing up. And winters are rough. And so if you can come in just to get the heat of the Hulman Center sometimes, like just getting rubbing elbows with people to stay warm. So I'm going to show my age here. I'm mid-30s. So I'm not like, it's not saying a bad thing, but like I remember in high school, the college football game, and it obviously went away. Now it's back. But back then, I would play with Indiana State, and I'd test the waters with different schools. So the game came back. FCS isn't included. Kind of curious your guys' take on, is there any conversation that you're aware of where in the future FCS schools will be included? Because, I mean, I look at like an enrollment, you're talking about a great marketing thing, is if those schools are in the game, you can really start getting young local people, but also just anyone could discover you on that. So we'll start with you, President. And you can take it whether you've heard anything or what you think that would do.
I have not heard anything, so I definitely haven't heard anything. But I couldn't agree more with you that it kind of gives that recognition of your institution and gets those young people excited when they're thinking about their college choice and thinking about where they might want to attend. Even if they're not looking to be a college athlete themselves, I think that they can see themselves in that environment, in that space, and they want to be a part of it. So we'd be excited if we were able to venture back in that direction, to have Indiana State represented as an option when people are playing any type of video game. But for us, it's another branding opportunity. It's another way for us to help get our message out there of the importance of the educational experience at Indiana State. And if that's through gaming, we'll take that as an avenue as well.
And I would just echo what he said. Regarding basketball, they did reach out to us about our court design. There's been rumors that EA Sports has kind of gone to the wayside now. 2K games are up and having those conversations, but they have reached out to us about asking for our colors, our court design. So for us, I'm excited about that, right? Because the earlier comment, obviously basketball is a big deal at Indiana State. So from President's comment about football, just that branding piece, and honestly having people within West Central Indiana and Vigo County going on their game consoles and doing a season with Indiana State, that's pretty cool. And a good story of that is my son, obviously he's a huge baseball fan, and his favorite player is Carter Beck. So now that he's got MLB The Show, he's like, so can we play with Carter Beck now on the Atlanta Braves? I was like, oh, you got to wait till next year. But
yeah, I mean, you could probably get a legal roster download for the game. It might not look like him. But, no, it will. I just think if you're going to do the basketball game, you've got to. Just based on how the championship is set up, you'd have to have – and that obviously there's 360 plus then you got to add. So I think the game for basketball, I mean, 2K is, 60 teams if you include the WNBA on the game, which, you can play as Caitlin Clark here in Indiana. And so people like that.
This episode is sponsored by Pilotics. More money, less time, lower costs. Pilotics is an AI technology company dedicated to solutions that generate revenue, save you time, and reduce costs for universities campus-wide, including athletic departments. Increased donations, fast, effective targeting, improved performance. A custom platform designed to improve fundraising results in today's higher ed environment by fully leveraging all your data. Visit pilotics.ai today to learn more and request a demo.
Nathan, ISU, I would say, has a unique football situation. The stadium is an old baseball stadium, a few miles off campus, and it isn't your traditional Saturday game day environment, but it's unique and different, can still be an asset. So I'm just kind of curious, how are you kind of approaching, try to enhance, we talked about the arena here, but the game day experience in the future of Sycamore football?
Yeah, when I first got here, I recognized that we have to make this more lively. So on the one end of the football field, we added field suites, which was a revenue producer for us, but also to the fan experience for some higher level donors and corporate partners. But this upcoming year, something that we looked at in terms of the dollars that we were bringing in from a youth ticket, we really weren't generating a whole lot from youth tickets. So like, why not just have kids come in for free? So for the first time ever, we're allowing kids to come to our football games for free this upcoming year. And again, our football games are extremely reasonable and affordable to attend. But for us, we know that there's not much time left with Memorial Stadium. So, we're having those conversations. What does the future of Memorial Stadium look like? What does the future of a community partnership look like with the Vigo County School Corporation? So there's a lot of conversations that are happening behind the scenes that we want to do what's best to help drive our economy, drive our enrollment, but also what's best for our community and how can we be a leader in that space. But in terms of the game day atmosphere, it takes everything, right? The type of music you play, things between halftime, things between timeout, and also as you're coming up to the stadium, what's the look and feel and what's the welcoming piece? Because again, you can only do so much with an aging facility. Obviously, we're blessed with this facility and Bob Warren Field out of baseball, but it takes a little more effort with football, so we just got to get more creative. And I think having kids get in free, but also things that we're doing leading up to it, and also outside of the stadium. Tailgating's a great scene because it's easy to get in and out of, and there's plenty of tailgating because of the grass space around the stadium. So just really the entire look and feel going up to it.
Even the marching band thing that you guys are switching up this year to kind of get them closer to the student section. I mean, I think that's another enhancement that you're looking at to kind of make sure that game day experience feels even more lively. And so, anything we can do. It's a process, just like any other. Whenever you talk about capital improvements or new capital investment,
legislature,
it's always a process. And so we're working through that, and we're going to, like Nathan said, we're going to do what's in the best interest of the community and the university in that order, because we really want to make sure that we're thoughtful in terms of those approaches, and it's not just a selfish decision on behalf of Indiana State University, that we think about those community impacts as well.
Yeah, and sticking with Indiana, I mean, for the Vigo County partnership with the swimming facility always have been strong, and really good swimming dive team here at Indiana State. But then you also look down the road in Indianapolis, they're going to open the gym, as they're calling it, Jim Morris Arena for IU Indy, but it's going to be community-based. And, with Terre Haute North and South consolidating in the future, another opportunity there, at least seems like low-hanging fruit. Not that it's going to be easy to do anything. But one funny story about it is a great tailgating experience. So great that my twin brother went to Indiana State his first 2 years and he transferred to Purdue. But I came up for a football game and I had to drive and park. So I drove up that morning. I parked my Grand Prix, loved that car. And I had a lanyard, and back then you just twist your keys on the lanyard. Well, at some point in the tailgating or the game, my key fell off that lanyard. So for about a week, my car was the only one outside the stadium. So I'm not joking. My parents were so mad at me. My dad rented a metal detector and made me go everywhere around the stadium, and I couldn't get in the stadium, but everywhere in that lot, he made me try to find that key.
Oh my goodness!
And because it was like a responsibility thing, I was 18, and it's like, you got to be more responsible, because it was an older car, so I only had one key, and we ended up having to get it towed. I don't think I ever found the key, but that was my tailgating experience. And my other tailgating experience was trying to get to the game when I was in college for the I think it was a bar crawl thing. For the walk. Yeah, I didn't quite make it to the stadium, but I went to many games when I worked here and brought my kids to some games after I was working here. And it is a really good competitive league, and so just trying to make that game day experience. And I always make sure the keys are in my pocket when I come down.
Good call.
So.
And talking about the competitive nature, obviously college football there's going to be a lot of change between now and 2031. So President Godard and that's something that we always have constant communication about what is the future of the landscape of college football. Obviously, NDSU making the jump to the Mountain West, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're putting Indiana State in a position to be competitive and with like-minded institutions. So obviously that's going to continue to be a conversation, especially as this landscape continues to shift.
Yeah. Well, President Godard, I'm curious how often athletics-related decision hits your desk or your phone, because I've told prospective athletic directors that I think a lot of their job is turning into maybe what the modern day president job looked like, as far as like all the constituencies and the problems you deal with. But as a president, I'd also encourage you, like coming from the provost route, were you also surprised at how much athletic decisions, how often they hit your desk?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think those decisions and the types of issues that arise in college athletics is different now than it even was 3 years ago. Honestly, it's changed. It changes that rapidly. I'm fortunate. I have Nathan, so he's on top of things. Again, he keeps me informed of what's going on, but I trust him to be able to make the right decisions at the right time. And the reason why we work so well together is because we have constant communication. So if it's a quick text, he knows he can call me whenever he needs to. So we never let issues become crisis situations. And so I think because of that relationship that we have, yes, it takes up time. But what I try to do is find ways to support Nathan to take a few things off from his plate so he can focus on what's most important in Sycamore athletics that given day or that given week. And whether or not that's me talking to legislators, if we have certain, things that are coming up, like the Protect College Sports Act or whatever that is, I'll take the lead on those things so that I free him up to do the other things. And so, again, fluid communication is going to be key to us continuing to have that level of efficiency on how he and I operate with that. But some surprises, but again, fortunate that Nathan's at the helm and he takes care of a lot of those things.
Are your campus mental health services enough? Will your athletes trust to visit them on site? Consider supplemental mental health care through OnRise. It starts at $94.30 per athlete per year. That's $7.86 a month and 26 cents a day. Mental health care should belong to the whole roster, and with OnRise, it does. Visit onrise.care to learn more, and while you're there, check out their library of articles and resources.
What's the cadence like with, always curious about the conference presidents. So
Yeah.
it sped up a lot around COVID and before you were a president here, but I think that from people I've talked to, it's kind of stayed a pretty quick or pretty good pace of how often you all talk.
Yeah, usually monthly as a group for the Missouri Valley Conference. And then with Commissioner Jeff Jackson, I would say, he calls me or I call him, every other week, or there's a text. And I know Nathan's in constant communication with him. I think the benefit that we have in the Missouri Valley Conference with the other presidents and chancellors that are a part of that group is, we compete against each other, but there's just this mutual respect and we like each other. So we tend to get along really well and try to find solutions to whatever's in front of us and work collectively as a cohesive unit. And I can't speak for every conference. This is the only conference I can speak to. But I'm appreciative that we have that level of communication and relationship. And Jeff does a really good job making sure that people are in the know and that he's inclusive with those conversations so no one's caught off guard.
Well, a comment you made about you have Nathan, one thing I try to study and with my perspective is really the POV of how alignment should work between the president and the athletic director. But also I've started to more look at profiles of board chairs and board of trustees, because I see how we see at certain institutions where if any of this is out of alignment, then it can be bad. And I try to explain to people, like, the athletic director's hired by the president, and the president is hired by the board. But at the same time, the board expects the president to do his or her job, not necessarily get in the way, but keep informed. And then I would say argue that sometimes we're seeing people speak too out of turn probably about athletics is the president also either hires or oversees the role of the athletic director. So let them have some trust, and then that's what evaluations are for. And you need constant communication. But like you can't. These jobs seem so complicated. You don't want to get out of turn or out of alignment, or that's when other things start spinning off the wheels.
Yeah, and I think that board leadership and when you have a board that truly understands what their role is as a board of trustees, I think that makes everything go a bit smoother. But again, transparency and communication is key. And so, one of my jobs is to make sure that my board is fully informed of what's going on, so there are no surprises when something happens, whatever that is. And again, they hired me to do the job. It's my responsibility to make sure that my leadership team is doing what they should be doing on a day-to-day basis, and the board needs to hold me accountable for that. Nathan, certainly, I invite him to come in and make sure that the board is informed on facility master planning for athletics or what the future of NIL looks like, and let him be the expert to make sure that the board hears directly from him. But I don't want, Nathan to be fielding phone calls from board members and anything like that. I mean, that's where they can circulate that through me. And again, I have a tremendous board and we have zero issues with that. But I've heard horror stories from other institutions where perhaps that's not the case for them. And again, I feel like our momentum is so strong right now as an institution and with Sycamore Athletics. And a lot of that is based upon those strong working relationships with the Board of Trustees. Certainly members of my cabinet, they all get along. They're helping each other solve problems on a day-to-day basis. And they know that they don't have to involve me. So if Nathan has an issue with a transfer student, he knows that he can just go to Maribeth Stevens and talk to her. If he has an issue on the academic side with an academic program that one of the students' athletes, he can go to our provost, Ryan Schroeder, and talk to him. I don't have to be the go-between. And I think that allows everyone to really feel like they're a part of a high-functioning team.
Yeah, well stated. I think alignment and energy, people look to leadership to see those two things, I think. And I think here it's clear that you both are aligned. And so the audience I focus on, higher ed and athletics, they want to see you two together or working together. That's why the importance of trying to have conversations like this where you're both next to each other as well, I think helps. And, I want to kind of go towards the end, the last couple final questions. Nathan, I'll start with you. This is an advice question. So looking back on the 2 years and ahead to now going into the third, what advice would you leave to the last 10 to 15 ADs that have been hired that this year that want to come in and do everything at once that maybe they talked about in their interview? You've had to kind of probably not temper your expectations. You have to have an outline that you can't do everything at once. What would your advice be for them?
Yeah, for sure. And I had a 90-day plan that I honestly stuck to. I presented that to the president and the rest of the cabinet that I thought this was kind of the best 90-day approach to how am I going to analyze and really look at how our department's being ran. And for me, the initial thing though is like, if I were to give advice, it's all about setting the tone and expectations. I think those are the two big things. And president's kind of the same way. And two is like, we go at a different pace, and if you can't keep up with us, this is probably going to be a problem. And just like going back to the transparency piece, is I was very transparent. I sat down with every single staff person and told them like, hey, this is what I think your role is. And as you've been to places where people have kind of created their own jobs, and that's a bad spot to be. So I really honestly went through everyone's job description, looking at what we needed at Indiana State, and reevaluated those jobs. But I also looked at what are some home runs that I can get right away, that I can get our fan base, our community, and the campus excited about. So those are the two big things that I would suggest to people, is making sure you set the tone and expectations, but what are some low-hanging fruit that you can attack right away to get people excited about. So that was kind of my approach to start.
Yeah, and that's kind of the internal and the external, right? The external win to get people excited about something, but the internal, like, people aren't going to expect, like, they see the athletic director needs to be out front and do all this stuff, but like, you still have to look at the job descriptions and see. I talked to Houston, Eddie Nunez about this too, recently on the podcast about he reshifted things around, but he didn't do it all at once. He's like, see how everyone's doing, look at their actual job descriptions, and how important that is. I'm sure you do that too whenever you came in with looking at your cabinet, but like, you still got to put in that internal work, because you got to get you can't get to step 10 without doing 1 through 9. Like, you got to actually have your team built the way you think fits. So.
And I honestly, I had a lot of conversations with President Godard about it, because it's obviously he's been in a lot of leadership positions, especially with the organizational chart. I totally revamped it, but he gave me some good advice. He's like, you got to make sure you're doing this all at once. You're not making constant change within your staff and departments. So just making sure that you feel comfortable about the structure and the up and down approach with your staff. So, but I think just from the get-go, that piece of it, but also working with President Godard in terms of how can I help achieve what he's trying to achieve for the greater good of the institution. Because obviously athletics is a part of this ecosystem, and it's a part of this whole under this umbrella. So we need to do our part as an institution as well in terms of making sure that we're doing what's best for everyone involved.
And President Godard, we've spent most of my questions, you've been repeating like the good things about Nathan. I'm not going to ask you what maybe he needs to work on or anything. That's through your guys' evaluation. But joking aside, for what do you think are some skills, characteristics, and character things that it takes to be a good mid-major modern athletic director?
It's interesting. I spent the past year mentoring an individual who wanted to become an AD. It was through the NCAA Pathways program, and I talked to her all the time about things that kind of blind spots, right, that might be there. I would say a couple of things. Number one is you need to, in today's day and age, have a mindset to be a revenue generator, 100%. If you don't have that as an athletic director in today's day and age, you are probably going to be short-lived in that role, in Division I at least. Secondly, being authentic and true to who you are as a leader will continue to matter, because people will see right through anything that's not authentic in nature. And that goes a long way with obviously revenue generation, but your internal folks, your internal constituents, because most ADs, and I just recently promoted, Nathan to vice president and director of athletics, you're going to sit on the president's cabinet. So how you're authentic and how you're looked at by your colleagues will also determine your long-term success and maybe even your short-term success. So thinking about how you're going to be authentic to your true self, focusing on those external opportunities that you have, and showing up. And by showing up, I mean really being that visible component to the institution. Because for me as president, there are some internal focused individuals on my leadership team, but the two externally focused individuals that are key to us as an institution being successful and are most helpful to me externally is the athletic director and your VP for advancement. Mm-hmm. And if those two individuals can be out in front and be a face of the institution, to be able to talk about our value proposition, and Nathan just spoke to this, to be able to talk about the greater good of the institution, certainly he's going to be focused on our student athletes and Sycamore athletics in general. But if he is bought into our overall strategic vision and plan, we're all going to benefit from that. We're going to have more revenue generation on the athletic side. We're going to have more donor support. We're going to have more opportunities to strategically provide access and opportunity for future Sycamores. All that plays in. And so that would be my advice for folks, is to really think about their authentic self, how they're going to be that revenue generator, and how they're going to be a great team member. Nathan is now the third most senior person on my cabinet. So that tells you some was just natural attrition that just kind of happens.
Now your provost left for presidency, for example.
Provost left for a presidency, great for him. And we had others that we had a retirement for a long-term employee of the institution, Diane McKee. There's a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, I had my chief of staff pass away unexpectedly, right? There's things that just happen. But there is that sense of urgency in a positive way that I always want my leadership team to be front of mind. And I think when you have that type of like-minded approach of what's next and how do we kind of achieve that together as a team, you can continue that momentum and achieve beyond what even your expectations are. And that's what we're striving for at Indiana State.
Well, President Godard, Vice President Christensen, thank you for allowing me to come to Indiana State and speak with both of you. If you all weren't setting up for a gala, we'd be out here shooting 3-pointers or half-court shots to end it, because my kids, I told them, I was like, I got to get a half-court shot. They're big Dude Perfect fans, so I was like, I got to try that. But we don't have the goals out here today, but we are in the beautiful Hulman Center. So thanks for joining me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it.
Thank you.